I had plans for today. Plans which mainly consisted of knocking a big hole in my hedge trimming at the farm. I managed half an hour, and that was it. And then I had the call, I had to go to Cheltenham, and then I had the call to say cattle are at a grub at Tudor Farm. So I've come home, and I still can't get back on hedge trimming because now I've got to go over there and give them a bail. So that is bad news for me, and not brilliant news for you either, because I've got an hour and a half of daylight left, and the chances of me finding something interesting to share with you in the next hour and a half in daylight, pretty slim. I mean, you've seen me feed my young cattle enough times, so you know where I'm going. You know what I'm going to do when I get there, and then you know how I'm going to come home. So I can't really share this bit. And now it's raining. But well, it could get worse. It could actually get a lot worse, but it's bad enough. Right, I need to fill some space in, just in case I want to use this bit of video. So, do you remember the other day I was talking about firewood and the necessity for choosing your fuel properly and burning it dry, and moisture meters and chimneys and certification and stuff like that? You can do all that. You can do everything correctly. But on the strength of a couple of messages I've had from folks since I put that video up, saying about what they're burning on their fire and what they know other folks are burning on their fire, perhaps I should also mention a couple of other things. Now, what I'm going to say now is not what we call it's factual. It's definitely, this is the stuff that I think I know. All right, so all the things I'm going to suggest and say to you now, don't take my word for it, look it up. If you're putting a log burner in your house, and it's never had a log burner before, as far as I remember, the maximum you can put in safely, covering under certain rules and regulations or whatever else, is I think 5 kilowatt. And that's not necessarily because of the amount of heat it gives out or the size of the room. It's because of the amount of oxygen a fire demands. So you've all done the experiment at school when you were younger, and your teacher got a little flint or a bit of wood, and then he put it inside a jar, and you count 7 or 8 or something, and then the flame would go out, and that's because the flames burnt all the oxygen out of that space. Well, if you imagine how much air you need, because we're air-breathing animals and we rely on oxygen, well, fire is also an air, oxygen-breathing animal. And in your space where you have your fire, there will be a volume, and that volume of air and oxygen in that space is that volume. That's it. That's as much as you can get, unless you have adequate ventilation. So opening the window doesn't really count, but window vents and air bricks and stuff like that. So if I remember, and we've got enough light when we get back, I'll show you. When we built our house, we knew we were going to put a log burner in. We knew we were going to do it. It was a no-brainer for me. We produce lots of firewood. It would be daft not to. So we put a big 12-inch square air brick in the wall in our lounge, so that fresh air can be brought into the room. Now that air brick is behind our TV and behind what was the stereo system. So all that is behind everything that we knew would get warm. So things like your TV warms up, your stereo can get warm, stuff like that. So we put the air brick behind that area. So as cool air was being drawn in through the air brick, it would hopefully help keep electronic stuff cool. It was trying to think ahead and make it do two jobs. But anyway, that air brick, there's probably a calculation somewhere to say how big an air brick you need, or a ventilation source you need for a given room with a given size fireplace. So if you could just imagine, if it's a small room and there's 2 or 3 of you in there, you're all breathing the oxygen and so's the fire, there is a fairly high demand on that oxygen in the room. And if you're not very careful, the fire is going to take it, and you're going to end up going without. So yeah, I'm probably trying to explain this all acid backwards, but if you would imagine that a fire probably breathes as much, a 5 kilowatt fire, I'm just guessing here, a 5 kilowatt fire probably breathes as much oxygen to 10 people. Okay, so you've got 10 people in your room, plus you in your room. If you've got all the windows and everything closed and there's not enough ventilation coming in, and the oxygen in your room is not being replaced as fast as you're using it, and the fire is using it, there's going to be a deficit. All right, so if you're in a room with fire and you're suffering with things like headaches and stuff like that, well, it could be that the fire is sucking all your oxygen out. So ventilation, putting a fire in, very important. So you have to draw air in from somewhere, and it's probably going to be cold air from outside. So you put a fire in to warm you up, but you have to open the window so the fire doesn't kill you. With me so far? So then another thing, if your chimney is blocked up, or you're burning damp wood or whatever else, you've all heard of CO2, you've all heard of carbon monoxide. So if you've got a fire, an open fire, any fire really, you should have a carbon monoxide alarm. Okay, ours is a little battery one that sits on the mantelpiece with little green and red lights, battery operated, but yeah, if it senses carbon monoxide in the room, it beeps at us. So far, touch wood, it never has, and hopefully it never will. But very important, if you've put a fire in and you haven't told anybody, and you're not going to tell anybody, for your own safety, carbon monoxide alarm. All right, dead important that, because no, dead's the word, dead important. Carbon monoxide alarm. What else? Fuel. Okay, so I've had a couple of scare stories of what folks are burning on their fires. So one guy is using old creosote fence posts. Anything with creosote in it is a no-no. You do not want to put that up your chimney. You just don't want to do it. The fumes and everything coming off that, if that comes into the room, you don't want that. That'll make you sick. People are smashing up old furniture and doors and stuff like that. Varnish. You don't want to be burning that on your fire either. The toxic fumes and everything out of that, again, if you're not well ventilated, filling your room with toxic fumes. There are so many things with having an open fire, which is lovely. But if your cheap source of fuel is recycled timber from any number of places, don't forget a lot of the preservatives in timber used to be full of arsenic. You know, yeah, all right, most of that's going to go up the chimney. But, you know, what happens to the bit that doesn't go up the chimney? Where's that going? Yeah. All I can say is a well-fitted fireplace with a well-fitted flue and a clean chimney and decent fuel is great. It's a great source of heat, lovely way to stay warm. It's a different type of heat to your gas or electric radiators. It's just different. It's nicer. But is it cheaper? Well, only if you've got a decent source of decent quality fuel at the right price. If you've got to buy it in, then it's not. There's no cheaper than your gas electric. Honestly, it's not. Crunch the numbers. It's not. If you want to keep it warm and you want to look after it properly, it's no cheaper. No. Other than the fact that it still works if someone cuts the gas off or the power. You still have a source of heat. So as a backup, yeah, fair enough. But as your main source of heat, if you're burning crap on there, you reap what you sow, I promise you. So there you go. Anyway, that is almost 9 minutes worth of video, which could be all I'm going to get a chance for, because everybody's got their lights on now. It's getting dark, and I don't think I'm going to be doing an awful lot more outside. So yeah. So yeah, if you're thinking about putting a fireplace in, please think about it. Okay, get some advice. Speak to somebody you really, not me, because I only think I know what I'm talking about. Speak to somebody who really knows what they're talking about. Somebody who fits fireplaces for a living, and they've done the training, and they've got all the certification, and they've got all the insurances and stuff like that. If you take anything away from this conversation, it's not a case of Ian said this, so that must be true. No, it's a case of Ian said, check. Okay, this is what he thinks, but check. Because I may be wrong on a few bits and bobs, and if I frighten folks, well, good. Because that's the idea. The idea is to make you think about it. Do not burn old furniture, stuff with preservatives in it, stuff with varnishes in it, stuff with paint on it. Don't burn that. Okay? It's bad. It's bad for you, bad for the fire, and it's bloody awful for the neighbours. Okay? Don't do it. If you look around, there are sources of reasonable fuel about. If you're willing to do a bit of effort, a bit of work and stuff like that, you can do it. Okay? We ourselves, we give away all our softwood. Yes, softwood burns a bit faster, produces less ash, could burn a bit hotter sometimes, but the actual thermal value of what you get over a whole piece of softwood compared to hardwood, there's less thermal value in softwood. But if it's free, and you have the time, and you have the kit, and the skill to cut it up, stack it, and season it for yourself, there are sources of fuel out there that will cost you nothing more than your effort. Okay? So we have a few dozen folks that come to me regularly and go to our free to collector pile, and they can help themselves. They can take whatever they want off that pile, they take it home, they convert it, they stack it, and they burn it for the winter, and they got free firewood. Okay? So I got quite a few families even. So I got a couple of dads and sons, and not so many daughters, but mainly sons or son-in-laws that come out and they take firewood, and they'll take a load this weekend, and they'll take a load next weekend, then they'll come back in a couple of weeks and they'll take some more, and that's what they do on the weekends. They'll cut it up. Okay, I'm not suggesting you do that in the middle of the town with your chainsaw. It might upset the neighbours. Okay, so I grant you that, but there are always going to be sources of fuel. You just need to go and look for them. Okay, walk around with your eyes open. Okay, so people say pallets. Well, yeah, you could burn most pallets because they're not all that treated, but not the painted ones. And be wary that it will burn so fast that yeah, you're just forever feeding it. But it is easy to cut up, he says. Yeah. Newspapers. You can actually get a newspaper briquette maker, and basically all that means is that your Sunday or daily newspapers, all you do at the end of the week is you soak them in a bucket of water, you scrunch them into this little brick maker, you compress them into bricks, you take them out and dry them, stick them in the greenhouse, they'll dry in there. So the paper side of it is fine, not too sure about the ink side. Not sure what's in the ink these days, so, but yeah, you can make your own logs, newspapers. Right, we're here, so I'm going to shut up now.